Hi there. You probably heard of David Blaine. David Blaine is a world-renowned magician who likes to push himself to the limits. Yeah, as someone you've heard of, probably, some of his familiar work, which he made clear in the speech. He was buried alive for a week. He also was frozen for a day. And then he stood atop a tall pillar in the middle of the city for 36 straight hours. And he said that the buildings around him started to look like animal heads. So he's someone that likes to take things to the extreme. In this case, he held his breath for 17 minutes and 4 seconds, which ended up being a Guinness World Record. So in 2008, April 30, 2008, David Blaine appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show. This is just after he came off of an attempt to hold his breath the longest, and he failed due to complications with too much movement, and he learned from it. He succeeded in this case with oxygen-assisted static apnea, which means that he had help before the attempt, where he would breathe pure oxygen, and then he would have that built up in his body, along with the training he had, where he would be in a tent that had the altitude of it like base camp of Everest. So basically, the red blood cells would just completely build up in his body, and it's a completely unfair advantage to somebody like you and me. But in this group of people who do this, this is just another day in the office for them. Don't get me wrong, it's 17 minutes and 4 seconds, but that's what that group trains to do. The fact that he was able to speak at a TED Talk conference of somebody of his stature had to have been a little bit more special than somebody else talking. Not saying that it is, but in my view, if I saw a magician perform an act on television 3 months ago, do 17 minutes and 4 seconds, I'd be like that was incredible. Like, this guy's talking at a TED Talk. I want to go see him and hear him talk about his previous attempts of pushing the human limits. And so I think that had something to do with how I thought of it, how I viewed his speech, and the fact that the world record was still fresh in people's mind. Like, he just came off this, so he had to have been very proud. It had to have been a very cool room, atmosphere to be in. And I think that spoke a lot to how it was perceived. The structure of his speech was awesome, because he talked about his background first, and then he ended up gradually talking about how ways he was going to attempt the 17 minutes, 17-minute feat, where he talked about having a bowl of liquid oxygen. This is just one example, but he would have a bowl of liquid oxygen, and then he said that he would put his face in it, and theoretically he would be able to breathe that, as he's underwater and circulate his body with oxygen. But he said it felt like he was trying to breathe with an elephant stuck to on his chest, which would not work. And he understood the competition that he was up against. This guy who held it for 16 minutes, who had the record, he's 6'4", 160, and his lungs were twice the size of a normal human. I'm not saying that's true, but that's how David Blaine explained it. So basically, he had elephant lungs, and that gave him, a really good advantage with this. So he knew that he needed to go about this logically and, beat him scientifically and train. And he got his eating habits down and breathing habits down to a science. He said that he only ate food for nutritional value, and he needed to lose weight in order to get up to where he needed to be. He understood his faults from the first attempt, and he knew that he wasn't going to be able just to, he's not going to do the same thing with the same process and then expect to succeed. No, he took a whole different angle to it. And he truly made the audience feel as if they were there. Because in the 17 minutes that he was underwater, he talked about in each minute what he was thinking. And in the beginning, he's like, no way I'm doing this. Like, I'm starting to, because he could hear the heart monitor above him, and he's saying, I can't do this right now. My heart rate's not going down. I'm not going to be able to survive this. And he starts talking about that when he gets to minutes 12, 13, 14, 15, that stuff's going bad in his body. His heart's skipping a beat, and it sucks that he can feel all this because he's awake the whole time. But it works to a big degree because it lets the audience feel like they were there with him, going through this with him. And I honestly felt like I'm holding my breath while doing it. The way he spoke, he's a very dry guy. Obviously, he's humorous. It was a really well-written TED Talk. But the way he talks is dry humor. Around the 14-minute mark of his, when he said he was underwater, he said that he started convulsing, and that he suddenly had this urge to breathe, and the whole audience loved it, and they started laughing. So I thought it worked on a big degree. And I was very admirable of the way he didn't like brag about himself. He knew that he put in the training and the work to do something like this, and it worked great. So he's a good speaker for somebody that is not a professional speaker. But I guess if you're a magician, you kind of are a professional speaker in the way you have to talk to the person across from you. But either way, it worked. It was good. I had a video. Don't sure if I necessarily need to show it. I was just going to talk about how oxygen works in the human body and how important it is, because
tissues and organs will also be unable to produce results for our bodies when we.
So basically, the idea was if you're underwater for 17 minutes, your brain's going to shut down. Most humans, when they go underwater for around the 15-minute mark, they're going to be considered brain dead. So the fact that he had to do this severe training and meet with many doctors just goes to show that he put in the work and did stuff that not many people would be able to do. So thank you for listening.